Little Children is a 2006 American drama film directed by Todd Field, starring Kate Winslet, Patrick Wilson, Jennifer Connelly, and Jackie Earle Haley.
Something really beautiful.
Something for my mommy.
It's the hunger for an alternative and the refusal to accept a life of unhappiness. Aaron's been telling me about his new friend Lucy. She sounds like a sweet little girl. What's her mother like?
Welcome back to the Cult of Films. I'm John, the host, and I'm joined by these two guys, Mr. Coleman Yeti and Johnny Mulligans.
Happy, thanks. How do you do?
Little Children, not like you think. We were talking about the movie that nobody saw, and I'll just start this show off right now in a rage, because this is not a cult film, but god damn it, it probably should be. It cost $26 million to make, and it only made $14 million in the theater. It was nominated for 3 goddamn Academy Awards, and no one saw it, no one cared, and no one wrote it. I don't know if I'm talking about this movie anymore.
Oh, poor John.
Ex-girlfriend
I mean,
from
John,
high school.
it's because all the fans for The Deer Hunter stopped going to the theaters. What did you expect?
I don't know if I'm old enough to get that joke, but moving on. This is a movie based on a novel called Little Children from Tom Perrotta, who also wrote 2 books. Do you think that this guy also wrote? Just throw out some random guesses.
Oh, God, this is almost like Catcher in the Rye kind of vibe, maybe?
I like where you're going. Coleman, you got a guess?
Fahrenheit 451.
He
wrote, no.
He wrote Election and The Leftovers, that Showtime movie about the rapture or whatever. So this guy is all over in tone.
Yeah. Election, like the movie with what's her
Ferris
face?
Bueller, yeah.
Ferris Bueller.
What's her face? Ferris. Okay. Sure.
No, not Christina Ricci.
No, Reese Witherspoon.
Reese Witherspoon, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
That one. So we have that in the mix, and then you throw in Todd Field, and Todd Field is the guy in the background as far as an actor goes. He was in Twister. He was in all these. He was in The Haunting. He was in all these movies just as guy in the background. But he only made 2 movies, and this was his second film. The other movie he directed was In the Bedroom from 2001. So Todd Field, random guy, random actor. He directed 2 films. And between those 2 films, he got nominated for 8 Oscars. And then he never directed anything since. I don't get it at all. But yeah, Johnny, what did you think about The Neighborhood Watchmen?
This every time the narrator jumped in, it pulled me out of the cringy that was this movie. And it was just it was weird. It was one of those movies where I was just this is really kind of weird. It's a bunch of suburban folk with all their suburban problems. Mostly hate this movie.
Okay.
I think there's substance to it, but it's kind of boring, a little full of itself, and then also a healthy dose of WTF. It's a 2-hour plus movie. You get 90 minutes in, you're like, okay, we're wrapping this up, right? What? There's more?
Wow. Okay. Well,
Okay, there's my initial feelings. I'm sure I'll have more feelings about this movie.
initial thoughts, Coleman, on American Beauty 2.
It was too damn long.
Wow.
Yeah, it really. I mean, the story. It was okay. Parts I appreciated, and parts I enjoyed, and parts when I laughed really hard when you shouldn't laugh at movies, but it really amused me. But yeah, that was my general feeling, is the pacing was really slow and the movie was just longer than it needed to be. And yeah, I could get the American Beauty kind of vibes off it, but with worse acting.
Wow. Wow. I am totally caught off guard. Okay. What else?
It's another movie I'm walking away from. I don't necessarily like it or dislike it.
Okay.
Like, I don't hate it, but I'm not like, oh my God, that was a great movie. And again, there's just those fantastic moments that are just so hilarious.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into in a little bit.
We'll get into that. Absolutely. I feel like Kate Winslet at the book club right now, and you both are the blonde Karen lady.
Is that a nice way of saying she's a slut?
He just like, yeah, the
Oh wow,
she sucks because she's a whore.
We're getting our Karen on. Yes,
She's a slut.
that was kind of in there. Like, they really put that in your face early on, right in the beginning. Like, the trio of Karens, it seemed like really pertinent to modern day society.
The playground
That's the
hens.
boss lady Karen, though. And I see those, like, as a parent of elementary school children, like, I've seen that boss lady Karen in the wild, where they're like,
In the not so wild. Yeah.
yeah, where they're standing out in front of the school and they're clearly just a fucking bitch, and they have all the other women around them every day, like, hanging on their every word. Oh, so and so,
Right.
like, yeah, that's a real person. She was a shitty actress,
Oh my
but
god.
it's a real person,
Boss level Karen.
Final.
I like it.
if you
The
will.
final Karen.
Yeah, you could tell she's the first one to be like, "Why are we wearing a mask outside?" And the other ones are like, "Ugh," you know, that kind of person. I thought she was hilarious. I thought she was my favorite character. This is totally jumping around, but she was my favorite character in the entire film.
Well, hop into bed with every guy who says hello.
Let's go. There's so much to unpack. I thought that. See, okay. I thought this was a sure thing. There's nothing not to like about this movie, and you guys just already destroyed that thesis. So
Nothing not to like.
oh,
Wow.
I think
The
this
more
is,
that we do this podcast,
Yeah.
the more that I learn that you have weird taste in movies.
I feel like this is a near flawless film.
I don't know anyone I could show this movie to right now that'd be like, yeah, that was great.
I'll give you this much. The movie is just saturated with perpetual tragedy. Every character in this movie is like, it's American tragedy. But when we talk about train wreck theory, this is the slow one. This is the slow train wreck. You see it coming.
Right.
You know it's going off the rails. It doesn't matter what they do. It's the worst. It's just the worst. You know it, but they can't help themselves. And it is. It's almost like Shakespeare tragedy comes to mind, but Shakespeare's good and this one's not. And that's kind of how I felt about it. It's like, I appreciated that this was not a happy ending kind of story. Like,
Right.
Something's got to go wrong here. We don't quite know what it is. And they kind of throw some curveballs in the end about what exactly goes wrong. I joked about Deer Hunter earlier. And if you go back into the 70s, you're going to find these movies, like a movie like Deer Hunter or The Shining. They're gigantic, long movies. I think Deer Hunter was a 3-hour movie. And it's a lot of that slow pace. There was a style to movie that this happened and people would go and they took an afternoon to watch these gigantic movies. And it happened. And it felt like this movie was almost trying to tap into that while doing a Pulp Fiction multi-movie kind of thing. Like, if like in my experience, for me personally, I never caught Pulp Fiction from the beginning for years and years. For years, I thought Pulp Fiction was 3 different movies because I always caught it at different points and never realized, like, oh, they're all in the same soup. Like, you've got 4 primary characters. They focus on 2. And then they bring the other two are in the periphery, and it's a thing. It's like this soup of different stories, and eventually they come together in about 2 hours because they felt like doing a really long version of it. And I think that's what they attempted. I think they attempted this tragedy kind of vibe. They reference in the book club scene, they're talking about this book that they read and all these horrible decisions, and they're kind of tying it to an old piece of American literature in some way. Like, what they could have wrapped up in 90 minutes, easily, I'm sure, they dragged out to over 2 hours. And I think that took away from it. I think they lost people's attention. And that's probably where it lost out.
I think it was appropriately paced for a drama. Usually, like, you want your comedies like a real brisk 90 minutes because it's a lot to ask, you know, to hold a audience attention for that long, especially to try to get them to laugh. Or like a kids movie, blessedly, you want it like 90 minutes or less. You know, you want them, you know, in and out. Dramas tend to have a little bit, at least a 2 hour runtime. So that never was a problem for me as far as the pacing goes. It just came to me while you guys were talking about this, and probably why I love this type of film and why you guys don't is because I feel like, again, this is jumping to the end too, but I would recommend this to anyone that loves like Twin Peaks or something like that. Because this movie is the...
Oh, yeah, we're going back to this weird shit.
Well, it's the antithesis of every actor in this film, or at least most of them, are doing double duty because the whole deal is a duality. It's everyone is acting to each other and to the camera, you know, like doing their roles, but no one is letting them show who they really are. So there's always this like facade and this veneer, and the only people that are real in this film are 4 characters, and that's the 2 little kids, Patrick Wilson's and Kate Winslet's kids, and Ronnie, who's like the sick pervert, and his mother. That's the only 4 people that are actually giving the people they're interacting with and the audience their true selves. Because even in moments of bliss, there's a point where our 2 main characters, and we'll just say spoiler throughout, because I mean this movie came out in 2006. It's actually streaming free on HBO Max, so if you have that subscription, which everyone does right now because everyone's fucking watching the Snyder Cut. Talk about a long movie, 4 hours. No, spend half of that and see a good movie like this. There's like a moment where our 2 characters are, you know, make the decision to kind of like cheat on their spouses with each other. And they're both super happy, but even he is just like, you could see it in his eyes and just the way he's talking to her, that he's still not sure about shit, and he's still like guarded and hiding stuff. You know, the cop friend, he's lying to himself the entire time of like who he is. So it's just like such a layered, nuanced movie. You're watching one movie, but you're also subconsciously watching what these people are, their true intentions are underneath the facade, which I love. You sit someone down and it's just like, go watch Twin Peaks, and they're just like, oh God, this is just like, especially the first season, it's like, this is just fucking cheesy soap opera. Like, why are you making me watch this? And then it kind of unravels itself and it lets you in, and it turns out to be one of the scariest horror series of all time. If you have the patience to do it. But it is still a matter of taste. So I'm not saying that you guys are wrong. I'm just saying that this is totally my kink, and this is totally not your guys' shit.
So, in watching this movie twice, I mean, there's a lot of takeaways. It's 2 people, they're both not working, so they're bored off their asses. She has a legitimately shitty spouse. He's just bored and trying to recapture his youth, essentially.
Mm-hmm. With Ken doll.
Yeah, and definitely. And by the end of the movie, it's like, oh, he wasn't unhappy with his relationship. He was just trying to escape
his reality. He was just trying to recapture his youth. Like, that's his arc through the whole movie, where he's sitting watching the skateboarders up to the point that he skates at the end. Like, he's just trying to recapture his youth and some excitement and whatever. But a major takeaway I had is she was a shit mom. She was like the worst mother.
Absolutely. But it
throughout
takes
all
a
of it,
while
the
to
point-
unravel that, though, and that's what's interesting because it's layered in nuance, and you have an actual character arc because you're introduced her, and you're just like, oh, I feel really bad for her because her husband is
I
just a
don't.
fucking
She forgot
nightmare.
the goddamn rice cakes. That was not a slow build. She forgot the rice cakes at the beginning, and the kid's like, "No, I want it now," and she's like, "I don't know what to do."
All right, you know what? It's just not here. Okay, see for yourself.
Wait! Troy, honey, give Lucy your goldfish.
Well, that
It
kid's kind of
was-
a shit too.
You've been
wasn't
paying.
shit, but-
It sounds like Coleman's been paying attention to Boss Karen because he was on that fast. Dang.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You were the rice
Got the
cakes.
rice
Yeah.
cakes. It was a long runtime, not because it's a drama. The pacing was slow as shit to me, and both times through, that's what I felt.
Yeah.
Like it just felt like a slow build to. I
And
mean,
then,
I guess them having their final realizations, but
and the narrator, there was no need for the narrator.
it was like a narrator that's just explaining what's going on in case you're blind and you don't fucking know.
The whole time I'm trying to place this guy. I'm trying to place like where else have I heard him narrate?
He
Like,
is
what-
the most
what-
interesting man in the world.
If he were to punch you in the face, you would have to fight off the strong urge to thank him.
No, what is that really him?
Yeah, it's really him. It's Will Lyman. He does the Dos Equis commercials.
So he does Dos Equis? That's where I heard it from?
Yeah.
Oh my god. I was racking my brain. It's like, was it Stranger Than Fiction? No, that was the female actor that did that. That's not the same. No, wait a second. Where is this? And then the whole football scene. I'm like, this whole scene can be cut.
Which
Gone.
football scene?
The one where where Will Lyman's doing the narration through the whole one. There's talk about the game and I'm like, this is the biggest ball of cheese in the middle of a movie that
Johnny-
doesn't need it.
Johnny, that narrator felt so out of place to the point that like I watch things through just various streams that I find, and I actually had to text John to be like, is there supposed to be a narrator in this movie?
It's true.
Or am I just watching a weird version that has
The narrator became a huge distraction for me. Like,
yeah.
if there was drama and suspense, it pulled me out of the movie, and to the point where halfway into the movie, we haven't heard the narrator for a while, and I'm like, when's he coming back? Like, I want the narrator back. I want to hear the narrator. It's almost like they gave us all the sugar up front, and they held it back. And they didn't give me enough narrator until we got to the end. And then we see narrator at the end. It was like, oh, he's still here. Cool. I'm sorry, what were we watching? Okay, whatever.
I don't know, man. I see, and usually I hate shit like that. I don't like over exposition. I don't like voiceover. But in this instance, it just works for me because of the fact of the duality of the characters, like I was saying before, because everyone is acting this way and you're just watching this movie, and then this guy is telling you their inner monologue and their inner thoughts in this like very dry but all like it's funny, like a Dos Equis commercial. Like the words he's saying is almost ridiculous and absurd, but he's saying it in such an official way that you're just like, I gotta take this guy seriously. I usually think it's super lazy and it's dumb to do exposition dumps that way, but I liked that it kept our characters honest as far as how we perceive them, because they're talking shit they're just talking bullshit to each other. Everyone is just so fake and disgusting and just so suburban, and then the narrator Will Lyman pops up. He's just like, well, what Brad actually thought was, and it's just like, oh, it's not like, oh, I wouldn't have picked that up if it wasn't for Mr. The most interesting narrator in the world. But I still appreciated just that like backbone of just like someone else like, nope, he's full of shit right now, or she's full of shit right now. I don't know. It just 100% worked for me in this.
It kind of was my favorite part of the movie, the narration.
You shit all over the narrator.
And the narrator, there was no need for the narrator. It was just weird placement. But it caught me, and the fact that
yeah, Jackie Earle Haley,
kind of the
Rorschach.
Rorschach. Yeah, I was like, Rorschach. Oh, sweet. Oh my God, he's a weirdo, isn't he? All right.
Oh yeah.
Fits him
in everything.
When you look like that, you kind of don't have an option.
Yeah, I loved how like when his mother's helping him put the personal ad together, she's like trying to rattle off all these good qualities.
What great casting, because that looked like that she could be his mother.
Yeah, those were actually, as far as acting went, I think I preferred those. I liked the work they did. I think they did great work, and even to the point where the actress who played the date.
Yeah, she's a comedian.
Yeah, she did great work too. I just like that. That was like, it was this little snippet of backstory just to kind of introduce. And it was so far into the movie before we actually got that introduction to those characters, to what's going on in that house. It's all alluded to in the beginning. Everyone's freaked out kind of vibe. And even the pool scene where everybody freaks out, and it's like for a brief moment you almost feel sorry for the guy, even though you know he knows better, and it's totally weird that he's snorkeling through a pool full of kids.
Yes,
it's like him. I didn't feel bad for him at all.
Right.
I was only trying to cool off.
You back off what Johnny's saying though is Todd Field shoots it in a way where it's trying to it's trying to tap into that sympathy, because that's what he does with everyone he makes at different times sympathetic, because like even Patrick Wilson, the character of Brad, this guy has everything. He has no job, he has this beautiful child, he has this gorgeous knockout wife, Jennifer Connelly,
for everything.
And then he has Kate Winslet as the like frumpy woman. Like Kate Winslet's the frumpy person, and like
they even like narrate that part. Like she had thicker eyebrows than he liked, and he was kind of boyish. I'm like, the what?
Right. And it's just like, well, but the movie's just like, he just misses his childhood, and he's just maybe she's not as supportive as she lets on to be. But like the whole movie, it just shows Jennifer Connelly like talking to her mom, just being like, no, he's gonna kill his bar exam, and he's just such a great husband. Like she won't have sex with him like every single night, but like Brad is the most toxic person, even more so than the pervert in this whole movie. So that's what this movie does well, is they make everyone equally sympathetic and pieces of shit during the entire thing, and that's really engrossing character development.
But he was ready to run out on his family. Brad was a much better fucking parent than Kate Winslet. He was like good dad, doing all the stuff
outwardly.
With his son.
Outwardly,
but see, it only took the skateboarders to derail his cheating plans.
Yes,
because he wasn't really interested in the affair. He just wanted that feeling of escape, and I'm gonna skate off the stairs. Meanwhile, Kate Winslet's character requires your daughter just ran out of the park and won't answer your frantic screaming calls because she's staring at bugs.
Yes.
Oh, as a parent,
after you drove her to the park, just
in the middle of the night, nothing weird to see here. No.
Yeah, and saying don't stand up because mommy will get arrested.
Yep.
Right. Don't stand up. By the way, I'm gonna have a sidebar with a proven sexual predator. Okay, fine. And by the way, just run away. It's fine. I've lived that life as a parent. At a kids museum, daughter ran off, scared the crap out of us.
Yeah,
I was having little flashback terrors in that moment, being like, I can relate to this, and it sucks. And it took that, her existential crisis is, I'm realizing I have just totally lost my shit, and now I'm a bad parent. Let's just go home. Forget it ever happened, and I'll deal with my shit, and not have to deal with other people's.
And that's a realistic character arc, just like they do in this movie.
But it shouldn't take me 2 hours to get there.
But come on, that's what makes the ending so gratifying, because literally, Kate Winslet and Patrick Wilson's characters kind of wind up where they start. I guess Kate Winslet has the most ambiguous ending, because she is is she going to stay with her pervy ass husband? Is she going to wind up leaving and doing something on her own? She literally comes full circle with just this new experience to see what she's going to do with this to hopefully become a better person, but there's no signal to say that she's going to. Even more so with Patrick Wilson's character, where he's just like you said, the one thing that derailed this thing was a skateboarder asking him to jump off stairs. He's just like the biggest baby bird. He has no character development. He's always gonna be this piece of shit, and that's what it is. Then you have Jackie Earle Haley's character with that cop friend, that little dynamic where it's like super antagonistic, and then like that's the only way where the other guy could kind of become better, and because he's just like spinning his tires in the mud, and he can't grow as a person. He can't move on because of the horrific things he did. He's projecting on this other person like an easy target. He's just like this big fucking bully, but then it takes something crazy to push them in a different direction. So
yeah, and that coin totally flips over, and you just
so
it's sort of like,
the only gratifying part about that ending was Ronnie chopping his dick off.
Sure.
So that he could be a good boy. I also want to say that the two best pieces of acting in this entire movie were the facial expressions of the husband as he was jacking off with the panties on his face. And his eyes were wide. And
you had to emote through all that.
Hilarious. Go watch it again and just see how bugged out his eyes are.
It's
into that.
That whole piece was.
And
can you think about shooting that scene too? It's just like, no, I need you to get a little more sweaty.
And Ronnie, when he was jacking off in the car next to the girl, and I felt so bad for the girl, but just his face was like
as he's staring at the swing set. It's not even her. It's just like, you're gonna tell me, you're gonna tell me. It's like
cracked up so hard by myself in my house, just busting up laughing at his face.
You would.
Taking care of business.
Jesus.
You better not tell.
Better not tell on me, because I mean,
and then she hands him the duck and she just peels off.
Oh my god. Yeah.
And that poor woman, she's like opens up and is vulnerable to him and all the stuff, and it's like, you seem like a nice guy.
He had a real shot. He had a real shot to be normal, but I like that the movie didn't do the movie thing. It was just like, okay, we're gonna give him a complete like redemption arc. No, he had to work for that redemption arc with that fucking rusty ass butter knife.
Yeah.
Oof.
Oh God. This movie is full of little moments where you're kind of like, it's fine.
But tell me, he didn't earn that. He earned a Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor in this. Like,
then it was deserved. No. He did the work, and I wouldn't be surprised if, like, I know we've gone through other movies and we've kind of like looked at them and looked at they bombed and looked at the year that they came out and see all the other blockbusters that just smashed. And if he's up against any other big blockbusters where the movie actually performed in terms of numbers and gross revenue, that's where he's losing out. Like, yeah, you had a good performance, well done, but this one made boku bucks, and we just sorry, bud. And that's the thing. I think Jackie did a great job playing his role. That you play a creepy role, it's not easy. Like, dang, we've talked about actors playing creepy roles. Go back to The Cell. That's our main evil guy in that movie. That's his job. He does creepy roles, and when you get that niche, you really gotta get it right. And I think Jackie's performance is good. The performance of the mother is good. I think even, and through the whole movie, it's kind of like they go through this whole narration, they go through this whole story arc, and all you can think is like, those poor kids. Like,
well, yeah,
why they're getting dragged into this, and that's weird. And geez, I'm sure there's no psychological therapy bills tied into that one.
The movie title is kind of a play on words too, because you think like, oh, little children, it's about the kids, or it's about protecting the kids against this pervert invader that's just moved back into the neighborhood, but it's really an indictment on the adults. Every adult in here, Jackie Earle Haley included, is acting like children. Everyone is, you know, like she, you know, Kate Winslet's just like, oh, you know, I'm gonna take charge, but I'm the cool, you know, playground hen. You know, all these other women are you know, she kind of like looks down upon them, but then she's just like, oh well, yeah, I'm gonna bone the homecoming king.
A nice way of saying she's a slut.
You know, so she's no better than that. It's like she's living out this like homecoming queen fetish that she probably, you know, she's probably like a book nerd or something in high school, and now she's, you know, trying to kind of relive that part of her, just like he is trying to relive his past high school, you know, glory days. And so everyone is trying to recapture youth, or trying to, or just flat out acting like kids. And I think it's like, yeah, it's an awkward title, but I think it's kind of perfect in this sense because of how everyone's characters kind of play out.
Yeah,
Sure.
I thought about that. I mean, yeah, it really is. It's a play on them because they're acting like kids and because they're trying to just recapture that. I mean, that's the whole basis of the movie that I got, is that they're just trying to recapture youth, both of them, trying to get something. I mean, her husband, again, outside of 2 scenes, like, you never fucking see her husband.
Yeah.
He's not even part of this movie. So, and that's something that, yes, you're saying in the ending, like they left it so open-ended as to what she could be going to do. But it was weird with the endings because they all had these realizations, right? Where, you know, the cop realizes that what he's been chasing the whole time, or what he's been trying to fix the whole time. Ronnie realizes that he's got to do something to try to fix himself after his mommy dies. And he does something really fucked up. But the other two, you know, like Brad hurts himself. And just in that moment he realizes he's not a kid anymore. That's what I took away from that. He's like, oh, I've been trying to chase this thing with the football and the girl and with all this stuff. And I'm not a kid. I can't skateboard. I can't all of these things. Like, oh yeah, this is how old I am. I'm going to go back to my life. But with her, she has the realization, and like she loses her kid, and that's scary. But in the realization, what is she going back to? I mean, is it just to not be a shitty mom?
Maybe.
Because
yeah,
there's no husband to go back to. And I know the narrator comes back in and kind of leaves it more open-ended, like even if it's just taking a first step towards whatever. But it's like, well, her first step was kind of running away with this guy. So what is it? What does she realize?
Well, she realizes that she has to be an adult. Whether that means leave this toxic relationship the right way. Because, you know, just running off in the middle of the night in meeting, you know, the homecoming king that's vapid as hell, that can't take care of anybody, including himself, you know, that's not the solution. So the solution is, if I'm going to be transformed by this, I can't be seduced by the lowest hanging fruit. I have to kind of make it out on my own. Like, she has all the, like, she's just so much, she's the smartest person in the room, but she, like, lets that get to her. It's her figuring out that she doesn't know shit, but she does know enough to put herself and to set herself up the right way for her and her kid. At least that's my interpretation of where her arc is going.
It's so open-ended that you really have to make up a story for her.
Yeah, but that's fun. That's fun. I like that. I like that because everyone else is pretty cut and dry. Like, yeah, like the cop brings in, or the ex-cop brings in Ronnie to the ER, and we don't really know what happens, but you know, it's like everything else is kind of spelled out for you, even without the narrator. Hers is just something where it's just like, I think that was meant to put ourselves in and be like, okay, well, you know, what would we do in this? You know, she doesn't have to come out scathed as Brad did or Ronnie did, or go through something traumatic like the cop did. She gets to kind of go out with little to no bruises, coming out better with knowledge to make a more educated decision on her life.
Well, she did put her kid in the car seat for the ride home, so at least there's that.
At least there's that.
It's the little wins, you know.
Right. All right. Well, man, I thought this one was a absolute fucking bop of a movie. I can't believe that there was so much dissension through the ranks, but that's why we do the review shows with you two schmucks, because I never know what to expect when we're talking about any given movie at any given time. So I hope that this was as entertaining to the audience as it was for me. The last thing before we move on from little children, who would you guys recommend this film to, if you would?
Nobody.
Wow.
I would recommend that everyone watch this podcast and then listen to my words right now when I say, don't go watch this movie.
I would agree with you saying that everyone should watch this podcast, but that's where our agreement ends there. Johnny, you don't think there's any audience for this movie?
If you have lots of time on your hands and have this like sense of self-loathing and need to feel better about your own situation in your life, and you know, kind of see the mediocrity in someone else's life and realize perspective. Yeah. Okay. We're good. We're back in avocado toast and okay, we're good. Now, no, it's like you gotta be, if you're a book nerd, if you're into like those kind of really long novel type books, something where it is, you know, it takes a good sit down to get through it. This is your vibe. There's a group for this. There's people who want something like this, like John, and it exists somewhere, not in my home, and that's fine.
I had the epiphany during the recording of this show. If you like Twin Peaks, if you like something that's a little bit more layered and nuanced, if you have just, I don't know, you like kind of a slower burn. I mean, obviously, if you like American Beauty, like this is probably your shit.
And if you like Dos Equis commercials,
and if you, this is the most interesting movie in the world. Please hit the subscribe button, thumbs up the video, follow us on all the podcasting websites. Coleman Yeti, where can everyone find you when you're not shitting on things that I love?
Well, you can find me at Coleman Yeti on Instagram and Twitter, and you can find me here on the Cult of Films, and you can also find me on Cascade Backcountry occasionally, when I'm not shitting on anything that John likes, which is really rare.
Right. Johnny, where can everyone find your bad takes?
You can find me hanging out, skulking around this show, and then on the Twitters at, I've changed the handle. It's at Commander Hamilton. That's at CMDR_Hamilton on the Twitters. I don't do a lot there, but that's where I am.
I like how Johnny's self-plugs is always like, just stay away from me. Like, just don't follow me, please. Just
there's
go
nothing
away.
to see here, really. There's nothing to see here.
It's wonderful. You can follow me at John the Host, or you can follow this very show at The Cult of Films. Thank you so much for watching. Hug your kids a little tighter tonight, and we'll see you next time.
It means she's a slut.